In this episode of Google Educator Level 2 exam prep, we'll be taking a look at Google Forms. Now, you may be familiar with Google Forms. Lots of things that you can do with Google Forms. It's one of the I guess the favorite tools for many of us. Uh, for the exam preparation, though, especially for Level 2, of course you'll have to be able to define forms and identify a variety of uses for it in a school setting. But you'll also be expected to create a new form, design your form, add a variety of questions to a form using different question types, edit your form, set form response destination, preview and share your form, as well as create a quiz. So there's not a lot of changes between the level 1 and level 2. I think the main difference is being able to set your responses to go to different pages pending a response. So let's take a quick look at Google Forms. Of course, you can always start out with forms.google.com. Close out a few extra windows here. And when you go to forms.google.com, you'll get a whole slew of existing forms that perhaps you've created, but you will also get some blank ones. And the blank ones are part of the template gallery. And as you can see, there are quite a few templates here that you can use and take advantage of. Of course, why would we want to do that? We don't need to do that right now. Let's just start out with a blank form and create from scratch. So we've created a new form. Now we're going to do some design. Let's just call it an exit ticket. Yeah, let's leave it there. Of course, you can put in a quick form description. And now we can go ahead and add questions. Now, there are lots of different questions. As you can see, there's a short answer and paragraph, which is a little bit longer than short answer, multiple choice, checkboxes, drop down, file upload, which is a really cool feature because you can actually have students submit work, maybe a picture, a drawing, or something that they have done on their computer or their device, and now they can upload it. Linear scale, multiple choice grid, checkbox grid, and you can actually create some pretty esoteric surveys with these options. Now, you may have to sort of play around to get the right orientation for linear scale or multiple choice grid. These can be a little complicated. But you should be able to figure those out. But let's just quickly add 3 questions in, and then we'll jump into something else. So I always like to know who I'm talking to. Notice that Google automatically figures out what this should be. So it's a short answer, first name. Now, when I'm working with this, I always like to add a title and description. So what I do is I'll create a title and description and call it about you. And then for first name, what I'll do is I'll just duplicate this and make it last name. One more duplicate, email. Okay, now that I've collected that information about the person, sometimes I also add organization. And some people even include Twitter handle. Now that I have those pieces laid out, I can come in and I can add a picture. Notice that I can do a quick image search, and let's just call it American Independence. Oh, there's that nice graphic I used earlier. I'm going to go ahead and click on Insert, and now I have that picture there. Let me see if I can adjust the size down a little bit so it's not so big. And I can even add a video if I want to. So I can click on Add a Video, and again, in American Independence. I want something really short, so let me just do that. America, the Story of Us, Declaration of Independence. Not sure if that's necessarily relevant at this point. Um, Video to watch. And so now I can a few questions. So the idea here is they'll watch the video and then they'll respond to some questions. Of course, you actually have to watch the video to add questions, and I'm not sure I'm prepared to add additional questions, but let's say, did you watch the video? And notice I could quickly do the yes, no. That's all the questions I'm going to ask at this point, but obviously I could ask some content questions. Now, once I've set this up, part of the expectation here is that I'll be able to set a form response destination. So when we're creating a form, we can often see a summary of the results on this page, or the responses page, and it's as simple as clicking on responses, and you'll get a chance to see all of the data and resources that pop up. But sometimes you want to create a spreadsheet to house all of the results. So you can come in and I'm just going to type in American Independence. At the front of that, I'm going to drop in exit ticket. And now I have a spreadsheet, or will have a spreadsheet that has those results. If I wanted to, though, if I had another spreadsheet where I was sort of collecting all the different exit tickets, maybe an exit ticket for activity that we did last week on World War or whatever, I could do that and have everything go to the same spreadsheet, the same Google Sheet, but the information would just pop up on different tabs. But for now, I'm just going to click on Create a New Spreadsheet, click Create, and Google is automatically going to open that up, and now I have all of this information here ready to go. So I'll be able to see first name, last name, email, and of course, most importantly, the timestamp when all of this took place. If I want to share my form, if I quickly want to preview it, that's what it looks like. Kind of boring, to be honest with you. I can customize it. There's all these great add-ons that I'm not going to talk about, but you can certainly be aware that there are a lot of add-ons like Form Limiter, Form Approvals, and Certify them. I believe that issues a certificate when things are created. If I wanted to choose an image, I could quickly come over and search for photos, upload photos, or pick a particular theme. So, for example, I could do a quick search on American Independence, and if I do a search on the word banner, what'll be kind of cool is that I'll get these rectangular things. So here's American Revolution. Ooh, 4th of July. That one's a little bit not going to work for me. This one will work. I'm going to go ahead and right click on that, save image. And I just want to point out that if we're worried about copyright, and we should be, with the usage rights, if I go to Tools and then labeled for reuse, it will sort of shuffle all those pictures and say, hey, you can use these pictures and it would be perfectly okay to use that. So I could come over here and say, hey, this looks great. It looks like Betsy Ross or with George Washington. So that's Ross Betsy. Okay, so now that I have that picture, I can come back to my form, click on Browse, pick Betsy Ross. It's going to upload that, and that picture is going to end up in my header. Now I can't quite get everything in, but I should be able to get sort of like the top part. Enough to get the message across. Somebody important hanging out with the lady who did the sewing. So if I preview that, I have this really nice exit ticket, and I just realized my exit ticket has the wrong title. I don't want remote learning, I want American Independence. Okay, now when I preview that, it's exit ticket on American independence. I've got all this information and it's going to drop it in for me. Now, if I'm ready to share that with others, I can come up here to send, and there are a lot of confusing options sometimes for people, but one of the ones that sort of throws people off is this automatically collect respondents' email address. If you're sharing this with students and they have the same email address as you do, their domain is the same. So, for example, ardentisd.net is what appears after your email and their email. You may want to collect that response because you'll get to know which of your students submitted what. If you do not want to collect that information, make sure that you leave that unchecked. At this point, you could email this out to people. You could type in the email, or what usually happens is you copy the long link. And I would recommend using the long link, not the shortened link. Don't know why, but sometimes the shortened link doesn't quite work. So you just copy that, and now that link is in your clipboard. You can come to, I'm opened up an incognito window, and notice that when I try this form out, I'm not able to access it unless I sign in. So there's still something about this form that's not quite working for me. I want this form to be accessible by anyone. And so when I go to my settings right there, you can see that it has the collect email addresses. I can turn that on if I want to find out who's emailing me. But I would probably want to take that off if I'm sending this out to parents. Since it's for students, I would expect them to be able to log in and type in their information on their Chromebooks or iPads or whatever it happens to be. If I want anybody to be able to respond to that, I'd take that check marks out. And now when I go to maybe an incognito window, it comes right up. I didn't have to log in or anything. It's ready to go. Now, how do I turn this into a quiz? If I come over to my settings again and jump over to quizzes, watch what happens when I choose make this a quiz. Now, I didn't set up too many questions that would lend themselves to quizzes, but I am able to come in and do this. Notice it'll tell kids immediately after each submission or later after manual reviews. Some teachers opt for the manual review. Other people want them to know how many correct answers they got, etc. So if I click here, it'll tell me which questions were answered incorrectly. You just have to remember that smart kids may pass those answers on to others if this is a really involved quiz. So usually a lot of people just turn on manual review and they turn this stuff off. Does that make sense? So when I click on save, this turns it sort of into a quiz, and I can actually come down and so a few questions. You can see here that I have an answer key, and if I choose answer key, I can say, did you watch the video? They get 1 point for yes, and I want to change that so it says 1 point. If it's no, well, they won't get any points. Oops, this is the incorrect answer. Then for correct answer, yay, you did it. Okay, and so now I have some feedback for my yes and no answers. We know that the green one is correct, and so that's pretty much it for setting up a quiz. Of course, you would repeat that process. There are a lot more things you can do with Google Forms, but that should hopefully get you started and get you through the exam level 2. Thanks for watching.